Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Sam Bonanno, and I am a senior analyst here at Capterra. And it is my absolute pleasure to host this chat with Lori Foster, the co-founder of Shotgun Seltzer. Lori and her husband, Brad, are something of entrepreneurial titans in the beverage industry. Lori was born and bred here in Texas. She attended the University of Texas before traveling all over the US, working with some of our nation's very best beer and beverage companies. In 2014, Lori and Brad set some roots and founded Texas Libations, where they offer their unique industry expertise to small and medium brewers. Lori, thank you again for joining us today. You and Brad have a long history in the beverage industry, over 40 years between the two of you. Tell me what led you to start Shotgun Seltzer and what the inspiration behind that brand is.
Thanks for having me. First off, I'm glad to be here today and to be able to talk to you. Um, what kind of led us was we actually, like you had mentioned, we started Texas Libations, which is a consulting business here in Texas. Like you said, we help small to medium sized brewers, and we had always, we kind of been in the entrepreneurial side of the beverage industry as well out in California with a non-alcoholic brand. Like you said, we moved back to Texas, and we had just always told ourselves that there was an opportunity that we saw that we would definitely take it and build our own brand. Brad and I had watched the seltzer category for several years and just saw this thing growing, doubling, tripling. And it was amazing to see. We, in all of our years in the beer business or beverage industry, I should say, we hadn't seen anything like that. And probably the best thing to compare it to was actually kind of when Miller Lite came on the scene in the 70s. And it was a whole spin all of a sudden on, light beer, which hadn't been around before. And so that's kind of what we were seeing in this unique category. And one thing we did notice was that there was key national brands, really only two, and that was White Claw and Truly. There weren't any local craft brands. And so we saw a unique opportunity to go at it from that angle. We kind of compared it to, or kind of think the trend will be the same as, craft beer. As when craft beer started, there was two big national brands, Boston Beer on the East Coast and then Sierra Nevada on the West Coast. So you really only had two choices. And as you know, it became then regional after that, and then local, and then hyper local to each state. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, Texas itself has over 300 craft breweries in the state now. And so we kind of think the seltzer category is going to do the same thing, just the way we've looked at things. And like I said, we saw this unique opportunity to be a Texas local craft seltzer. And that's when we decided to start Shotgun. So
That's really exciting. I love the idea of having a sort of neighborhood seltzer company. That's a
right.
cool
Yeah.
picture of the future. So speaking of the future, I think this year has been understandably pretty racked with one question. So let me ask it to you. The pandemic hit and businesses started shutting down and people started sheltering in place. What was going through your mind as a business owner? Were you concerned that Shotgun Seltzer wouldn't survive this wild year that we're having?
Very concerned, as I'm sure all businesses were, regardless of what your business was. It was super scary, unpredictable, didn't know what was going to happen. And for us, it was really scary because we started our business being focused on the on premise. So that's all your bars, restaurants, those types of establishments. Because the big national brands, they were in the grocery stores. We knew from a level of money that we could not compete with those guys. And our kind of old adage, or what we learned along the way in all our years of expertise, is that brands are built in the on premise. So going out with your friends, having a drink, or just even the opportunity to sample one drink or one pint of beer versus having to buy a whole 6-pack or 12-pack. There's lots of sampling opportunities in the on-premise, and then people just relate their experiences to the fun they were having while they were drinking that brand. And that's truly how we believe how brands are built. And so for us, that's what we had focused on. We were draft only when we launched this company. So all of our focus was in bars and restaurants. We had the unique opportunity to one of our largest retailers in the state, a grocery retailer, HEB. We were approached by those guys, and they said, "Hey, we love your brand. Is there any chance you guys can put this in a package?" And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely. Next year," meaning this year, 2020. But they were
Sure.
like, "No, we really like it in 2019." So we did, and thank goodness, by the blessing of God, I would say that we did, and we had that opportunity, and we took the opportunity and took the risk, because if not, we would not exist right now. I can tell you that. Never in our wildest dreams did we ever think every bar, every restaurant would all shut down on the same day, and so that's where I would say probably 90% of our business was in bars and restaurants, and maybe 10% in the grocery channel. And then now it's done a complete 360, and it's the total opposite, as you know, because all the bars and restaurants are still closed and just starting to open back up. So, yeah, very scary.
Yeah. So it was maybe a combination of excellent business acumen and a little bit of divine intervention.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how are you now reaching out for new customers in this socially distanced world? You're saying that you're uh, able to, sell seltzer in grocery stores and sort of transition to that. But how are you transitioning your marketing schemes and your outreach?
It's been very challenging. And I mean, I'd say that's one of the things is from a marketing standpoint, everything that we had planned for 2020 is thrown out the window. I mean, it was like basically we had to start over. A huge part of our business, being a new brand, is having the opportunity to sample consumers and let them try your product, because they don't know your name. You're trying to establish your name. And for us, that all went out the window with the pandemic because obviously you couldn't be in the store sampling. Nobody wanted to take anything from strangers, obviously, for certain reasons. And that was challenging. So, from a marketing perspective, we've tried all kinds of things. And I don't know if you want me to elaborate on those. I mean, we did certain pop-ups at our office space where we were actually selling it, where it's more like a drive-through type deal. For that, we actually, we would have never used a POP system or Square Reader or whatever for anything that we do, on our level, but those were things that we had to get very familiar with to just keep people, finding opportunities to sample and do things like that. We also did work with the radio station. We're doing things that we'd never thought we'd do, virtual happy hours, and things like that. So that's all been new and exciting, and trying to learn different things as we go along. Social media obviously became very important, from a marketing standpoint, because everybody was at home, everybody was on their phones, and that was a way that you could interact with people without actually seeing them. Then from the retailer side of things, everything shut down, as you know. There were no meetings happening. So all of our contact with retailers, we had to go to Zoom calls, conference calls, or video conferencing, and then phone calls. So the majority of our business is done on a personal level. You're always going out, meeting with people, meeting with your distributors, meeting with consumers, and everything just went virtual, as everyone else's business did as well.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question, but tried to anyway.
I mean, it's definitely a harrowing story, but it sounds like you really were able to adapt quickly and pretty effectively. It follows up for me with a survey that we at Capterra ran pretty recently. We found that 65% of small business leaders have been sort of backed into a corner and had to buy new software pretty quickly to adapt to the current crisis. I know you mentioned Square and a couple of other software services, but could you elaborate a little bit more on, how you were able to leverage software and technology to sort of meet
Sure.
this moment?
Yeah. Sure. One of the other key software pieces that we bought, it's a sales management tool. It's called LilyPad, and all of our sales team, they use that, and it's something they can use. It's an app on their phone now, but we can track, and it worked really well for us. One, we have people all over the state, salespeople all over the state, and it's an awesome tool for them to communicate with us and to communicate with each other. Um, Instead of having to come to an office and clock in, I mean, this app basically tells us where they are, what stops they make every day, where they went, what they sold. It allows me, from a marketing standpoint, to be able to load point of sale and different things like that actually onto their app, and sell sheets and things that they would normally get from me in person, or we'd print off things for them to take with them. It's allowed them to have access to that where they don't have to come in and get that from us. And just from a communication standpoint, they can route their entire day on this. They can see accounts where they've been. If someone doesn't want them, and this was particularly useful during the pandemic, especially initially, because a lot of accounts were scared to have salespeople come in and out of their location, but they needed help too, because they needed help making sure that their shelves were stocked and all those different types of things, because there were so many people, if you want to say, hoarding or buying, they couldn't keep items in stock, right? So anybody who could be helpful to come in. But then there was a lot of accounts too that were like, look, if it's not really necessary for you to come in, we don't really want you in here, which that's understandable as well. And so this app was really a useful tool, LilyPad, for that process as well, because it allowed them to kind of track their days. So if they went to a location and no one really wanted them in there, they can pull up on there, hey, what other accounts do I have right around here? What else can I try to go see, or who to see on this certain day, etc. So very useful tool. It also allowed them to communicate with our distributors who distribute our product as well, because they were not allowing anyone in the distributorship. So to protect their employees, and it was an easy way for us to communicate with them as well. And they knew what we were doing on a daily basis, and that way they could go fill the orders that we were taking, and et cetera. So super great tool there. We also implemented, we've been using a software called VIP, which is an inventory software, and that allows us to communicate to our distributors. And like I said, they weren't letting anyone in their warehouses. So it was really important for us to know what inventory that they had on the floor, what orders, what we needed to ship to them, and to make sure that they could stay in stock and be able to fill the store shelves as well. So
Yeah.
relied heavily on technology for sure, a lot more than we did before the pandemic.
Absolutely. Do you feel like some of these technologies will continue to be something that you rely on once this pandemic is something that we can all laugh about in person?
Yeah, hopefully we can. And
Yeah, someday.
they're definitely here to stay. They're great tools. I wouldn't, I mean, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have them. And I think they're definitely sticking around and showed us a lot of really cool things and things that we can do with them. And I think actually, have made us a lot more efficient for using them for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think that's the heart of future proofing your business, right? Is to be
Right.
all ahead. So I know one decision that you made was to relocate some of your marketing budget in order to be able to hire more people. Can you tell me a little bit about what went into that decision and what sort of lessons you learned along the way?
Yeah, for sure. And that was challenging in itself. But the, basically we were kind of driving back from Houston to Austin when we found out the whole shutdown was taking place. And we actually called a couple more of our management team in, and we sat down at a table. It was on a Sunday. I can't remember the exact date, maybe March 22nd. I'm not sure. And we literally sat in our office space for 8 hours just running through all of our options. And it was like you said, because so much of our business was focused on the bar and restaurants at the time, was like, look, we can either shut the doors or sit here and do nothing and just hope that they open back up. When's that going to be? We don't, everything was uncertain from that aspect of the business. Or we can actually double down and hire more people, because we knew that the off premise, which is, your grocery stores, liquor stores, convenience stores, we knew those guys were not shutting down. They were essential. We were classified as essential workers at the time because they needed us to keep the shelves filled, keep the supply chain running. So the question was, do we double down on more people, or do we just close the doors and wait and see what happens? And so for us, we knew too, a lot of the people that we loved and admired and actually sold our products, so they were being hit really hard, the bar and restaurant industry. We knew we could get a lot of really qualified salespeople, because those guys were looking for work. And so our option was, can we help out some people who are out of work and then help our business at the same time? And so that was a decision we decided, yeah, let's double down. Let's go hire some more salespeople and go broader in the state with what we currently had, and put more people out in the market. And that was challenging in itself. When you talk about technology, was interviewing people and finding people. So, obviously we use different, what do you call it? I can't even think what word I'm using, but we use like Indeed and things like that to go recruit people. And, but again, from, normally you would either call people in for an interview, or you would go meet them somewhere in their specific market, go meet them, whether it's at a Starbucks, a hotel lobby, one of our distributors to hold the meeting, to go interview them. Well, you couldn't do that anymore. So, again, we had to rely heavily on Zoom and technology to get us to have video conferencing so you could meet these people and have an in-person interview versus just talking to somebody over the phone. So I think from that, we've definitely got a good team and a good crew working with us right now. They're great people, super knowledgeable about the industry, and very fortunate. We actually did scoop up a lot of good people from the bar and restaurant industry that would have been out of work and probably still out of work. So we got very fortunate there.
Absolutely. Fortunate for you and fortunate for the community and for, all of these folks that you were able to give jobs to again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with bars and restaurants beginning, and I'm going to say that with both my fingers crossed, beginning to be able to safely open up again, what are your expectations for the sort of in-store versus in-bar mix? Have you guys thought about how that might change going forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a while for the bar and restaurant industry to recover. Here in Texas, I think the governor spoke yesterday, and restaurants are now allowed to have like a 75% capacity, which is great. But the bars are still shut down. And so I don't know when that's going to open. For us, a really good mix would probably be to be about 70 to 80% of our business done in the off premise, which is, like I had mentioned, grocery stores, convenience stores, liquor stores, and probably anywhere from 20 to 30% of our business be in bars and restaurants. So we're seeing it's like you said, they're starting to open back up. Some things are shifting. A lot of people are doing to go orders. So we're trying some new things when it comes to that, some single serve packages that we hadn't had before. We just released a 16-ounce can of our ranch water, which is one of our flavors here in Texas, which is pretty cool trend that's going on here. And but a lot of restaurants, they had asked for, do you guys have a 16-ounce can or a single serve that we can sell with a burger or with some tacos, or just as a to-go item? And so we're doing some things that's kind of being led by the restaurants. Like, I don't think we would have typically done a 16-ounce can, to be honest with you, but it's something that we've talked to them about, and they're trying to change things within within their own business of like, how can they still be profitable, and what can they do, and what are some unique things that they can offer. So we're really working hard with our customers and retailers to try to meet their needs and things that they're finding. But again, the mix, like you said, it's, right now I would say we're back in March, April, May, June, 99% of our business was done in the off premise. And then now, like you said, with things opening back up, it's slowly transitioning, moving that scale back to a more reasonable scale. But, like you said, we're just hoping for everything at some point to go back to normal. And we hope, it does soon.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess, the new normal. So we're still learning every day in this business. We're learning something new, and we're adjusting, the best that we can, given the circumstances.
Absolutely. And circumstances that change every day, it seems.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. As you've been thinking about all of this, is there sort of one piece of advice that comes to mind if you're speaking to other small business owners that have been forced to shift and adjust their business models to stay in the game? What would your one piece of advice to them be?
Probably to be flexible, I guess, is the best thing. I mean, I think from a small business standpoint, I think we have a huge advantage over big businesses because there's not a lot of red tape that you have to go through. If you do want to pivot, you do want to make a change, you can do it really quickly. And so my advice is to be open to try new things. Don't be afraid to fail at them because, trust me, over these past few months, we have done some stuff that's worked really well, and we've done some stuff that hasn't worked at all. And so I think just being able to take the chance and not be afraid to take the risk and just see what happens. That's probably my best advice. Because like I said, some things hit, some things miss, and you just have to be willing to take the risk to be able to figure out what's going to work for you and what's not going to work. So,
Man, if that is not the heart of the entrepreneurial spirit, I don't know what else is. Lori, this has been excellent. Thank you so much for your time.
sure.
What else is at the top of your to-do list for the rest of the year? Do you have any other projects that you want to pitch? Anything that you're excited about?
Well, we're excited about, I can't tell you about them, but we're coming out with several new packages and flavors. And we're just excited to be a part of Texas, be from Texas, be surviving right now. That's one thing we're excited about. We're truly fortunate for us to still be in business, still employing our employees, and just super grateful for the fact that we are in business. And we do have a lot of fun things coming up. From marketing standpoints, but everything's just like you said. It's all pivoting. It's all in the works. I'd say we're trying to make a plan for 2021, and we'll see what sticks with that. But yeah, as these next months coming up, we do have some new package releases that we're super excited about. I told you one's the 16-ounce can of ranch water. That's a single serve item that we'll have out. And then we also just released a 12-pack of ranch water as well. And so super excited about those and see what they can do. We've got an awesome program coming up in October and November. We've actually partnered with the Lone Survivor Foundation, which is Marcus Luttrell. He's a ex-Navy SEAL, and we're doing a big program with them for Veterans Day, and we're actually donating 50 cents a 12-pack that we sell to his foundation. So super excited to see how that goes, and help those veterans out over with his foundation. So that's it, and lots of exciting things to come next spring for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear all of that. If I was gonna try and follow you on social media, what sort of hashtags, or how do I find you on social?
Sure. Our Instagram's at Shotgun Seltzer. And then hashtag Shotgun Seltzer, Ranch Water, Spike Seltzer, Hard Seltzer, um, Made in Texas. There's lots of them, but we have a Facebook page also. We're on LinkedIn as well, so you can reach out to us any of those ways.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Lori, thank you so much for your time, and we're excited to hear what the future has in store for you guys.